Okay, let's talk ceasefire. Remember when all the headlines looked like this that made China and Russia look evil for vetoing the US drafted ceasefire resolution 2 days ago? Of course, the US ambassador to the United Nations was quoted saying the reason why China and Russia vetoed the draft was because the US wrote it and they hate the US and they were just being cynical and petty. When actually the real reason was because it was a temporary ceasefire, again, not a permanent ceasefire, and they said that it contained the effective green light for Israel to mount a military operation in Rafah once Israeli hostages were released. And they went on to say that the US draft would have freed the hands of Israel and would have resulted in all of Gaza and the entire population to face destruction, devastation, and expulsion. So let's get into today's ceasefire news about the UN Security Council passing a resolution calling for the immediate ceasefire in Gaza and prepare everyone for the likely to come demonizing headlines about our resistance, and talk a little bit about why they are most likely not going to accept this resolution. While this resolution does discuss the release of hostages, inclusive of Palestinian hostages being held in Israeli prisons illegally for years, it is still not permanent. We're going to pay attention to language again, and this is the use of the word immediate versus permanent. So something that's missing from all of the headlines and mainstream news articles is that Russia attempted to also include the word permanent ceasefire instead of just immediate, which is something that the US specifically vetoed. So again, this is just another temporary ceasefire, which actually looks like it has an expiration date for the end of the month of Ramadan, which there are 2 weeks left in Ramadan. And whatever aid they urgently made room for during that ceasefire period will continue to then be bombed and destroyed by Israel and the US. Bringing us to the reminder that Israel has not agreed to any of the resistance requests, which are related to the ceasefire, which the resistance reminds us is not just centric around a prisoner exchange deal, but that a massive portion of their demands is the removal and withdrawal of Israel and its forces out of the Gaza Strip. We want all of Israel and its bitch-ass soldiers out of Gaza completely, which full circle brings us back to the initial reason why Russia and China 2 days ago vetoed the US drafted resolution, and it was because there was no mention of a withdrawal of Israeli troops from Gaza, which again gave them the green light for a military operation on the ground in Rafah, which, if anybody needed a reminder of what Rafah is, it's where 1.5 million Palestinians are currently living in tents because they have been displaced from their homes throughout the Gaza Strip. So my point in this video is to remind you that once the resistance very likely rejects this resolution and the demands within it, and the United States, through its arm of propaganda, which is mainstream media, starts a slanderous campaign talking about how Palestinians don't actually want peace, which is what they've done every other time they've presented us with a bullshit peace plan that resulted in more occupation, more settlement and expansion, more loss of land, more siege, that you can remember the truth. And the truth is that all of these resolutions and these peace plans that have been presented to us over the last nearly 8 decades, that have been written on our behalf by outsiders without taking into account our demands and our voices, have all perpetuated and aided in the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians from Palestine. So it's not that Palestinians don't want peace. It's that we don't want to be genocided and ethnically cleansed from our own lands.